Hey everyone,
All right, everyone, it's time to talk about bleed. I'm gonna need it for this.
welcome to the next
Bleed.
episode.
Start the episode. Adam, start the episode. Adam, start the episode.
We're already recording.
Start the episode. Hit record.
We are. Well, so this is episode 3 of After Dark. Take 2 on our episode on Bleed because I messed up the first time. Yeah, so now we have to do this again and traumatize ourselves some more and drain ourselves. Also, I have fixed the lighting, Tawny, so hopefully this is like better for you now, and it's my giant LED spot lit up
You
instead.
look evil.
Yeah, well, you look like a Jedi.
What do you mean do I look like? I have wonderful lighting. My lighting is so bright.
Your lighting is pretty bright. Actually, I'm pro Jedi, not Sith, so I don't know. This analogy doesn't really work.
I look like a Jedi because I have lighting in my house. I have power to my home.
All right, so I guess for this episode, A will play the angel, and I guess, ironically or unironically, will be the devil.
For bleed, I guess.
Oh no, I don't like that at all. Let's not make that analogy. That's terrible. Where's Joan? I'm gonna go tag her in for this and step out.
Okay, to get more back on subject, we're talking about bleed. We got a lot of good questions about bleed. To start off, Adam, would you mind giving a definition to what bleed is in a LARP context?
Sure. Okay, so bleed. Bleed means, to me anyways, I'm not going to say I'm an expert. I'm going to give you the actual definition of bleed because there's books on what bleed is and how to deal with bleed. There's entire blogs. There's tons of people that are way more experts in this than I am. On the subject, bleed is generally speaking when you are playing your character and getting really, really, really into it, into the RP, into the mindset of the character. And then when it's out of character, your feelings and reactions are tied to that character. It's kind of when a symbiosis sort of happens between the player and their character. Bleed is generally viewed in a negative light, and that it's not a great thing. There are fragments of gaming communities that think there can be such a good thing as good bleed. I tend to personally disagree with that. I do not think there is a good bleed. I think there's healthy measures and check-ins and ways to manage bleed, but I don't think bleed is ever a good thing. I'm sure good things can come from bleed, but in my personal experience, I've seen far more bad with bleed than I have good. And if on any subject that's controversial such as this, I'll weigh the pros and the cons with evidence of like, well, what have I seen? If the cons outweigh the pros, you probably should stop doing it.
Possibly. To get in more detail about some more common types of bleed, based on a little bit of my research, which is to say a lot of blog reading and a little bit of experience, bleed is something that's natural. It happens to practically everyone jumping into LARP. If you're a newer player, you will experience bleed. Don't exactly feel negative about that. It's really a natural progression. It means that you're invested in your character. In fact, the most common types of bleed are drop. So LARP is a game with a lot of intense emotions, 24/7. It can ramp up to a 10 or a 1 at random times. And because you, as a person, as a human being, don't really experience those emotions on a day-to-day basis, getting out of LARP is going to feel very sudden, and it's going to feel very empty. Another one, of course, is game obsession, playing 24/7, ignoring specific parts of your life to focus on game, being late on rent and bills in order to be at game, sort of shifting your priorities in a way. And then finally, what Adam was talking about, the inability to distinguish character from player. So you are your character. Anything said to your character is taken personally, and anything you do against another person is personal to them. These types of bleed is, again, very common. It's investment in your character. It's investment in the game. It means you're having fun to some extent, but it also means that you are putting the people around you and yourself at a detriment. So we're here to talk today about some of our opinions, as well as some mitigating ways to some ways to mitigate the consequences of bleed. especially when it comes to things like character death or etiquette in channels or out of character check-in. But to begin with, Adam, let's start talking about what bleed is like for the everyday person in some ways that you really can mitigate that. You are obviously an ST of company. As an ST, how do you help mitigate bleed when you see it in your players? I know you and I have talked about some of the some of the sit downs you've had with older players. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Very specifically when it comes to bleed and the role of a storyteller in those scenarios, I absolutely am a big believer that the storyteller is a referee in some regards to their job as well, right? So when two players are heavily involved in an emotional scene, I think it's the job of the storyteller to pay attention to that scene and intervene if necessary. Because when two people are highly emotionally engaged with one another, you often won't take a moment to step back and consider what's going on because you're really in the moment, right? But the storyteller is not necessarily in that moment on an emotional level. They're watching. So if things are getting louder and louder and you can see the physical signs of someone getting upset, about to suffer an anxiety attack, for example, right? Because I've seen that before. I think it is the duty of the storyteller to step in at that point before that anxiety attack happens or whatever the really bad situation that is about to occur. They need to step in and say, pause this. We're stopping here. We're going to take a moment. Everyone kind of go to your own corners, breathe, go take a walk for a minute, come back. We'll talk about it and we can restart the scene. That's like at the high end levels of when bleed gets really bad, right? Like on your normal, like people are just having an emotional reaction. They're probably okay, but it does happen. You know, people have panic attacks. People have triggering traumatic events. There are a lot of people I know getting yelled at. It can be a triggering thing for them that, you know, they experienced in their life growing up that their parents like yelled at them for nothing and they were just constantly put down. And then when that happens to them at game, it brings up those feelings and memories. I mean, I've seen people slam doors. I've seen people like punch walls. Like, it has nothing to do with the game.
No, punching walls was a thing. Yeah.
It really ultimately doesn't have anything to do with the game. If you break it down to its core levels, this is something that happened in someone's life and they got triggered by it and they didn't know it was going to be a trigger, right? So,
right.
Besides like storyteller monitoring and like intervention, which I do think is important, like you kind of mentioned earlier, I've had several players over the years that I've watched that were getting more and more and more upset about game, invested in game, were considering it over their life, that I stepped in and had conversations with them and said, hey, you're done LARPing for 6 months. This is why. This isn't a debate. You are on break. After 6 months, we'll have a conversation and see where you're at, and then see if you can come back and play. And it's not like a punishment thing. It's you as your friend, I'm telling you, you're done. We're stopping right here. And every single time I've done it to a person, they've always come back to it and said, thank you. I actually needed that. I was lost in the moment. I couldn't see that. And I'm like, that's what a good friend should do, let alone an ST. So it's not even necessarily on an ST levels, right? Like, if you're friends with someone and seeing them kind of just going through it, maybe because their life is also kind of crappy or they've got bad stuff going on, there's nothing wrong with being someone's friend and stepping in and be like, hey, man, can we talk? Like, you're not seeming happy. What's going on and what can I do to help fix it? Is ultimately, on a storyteller and a player level, what you're trying to do. You're trying to, like, help them.
Well, human compassion is a hell of a thing. I also want to mention on the subject of more, before I start getting into sort of everyday ways you can mitigate bleed, you talk about black cards, because I don't think some of our newer players know about that role, and I think it's very important for them to know.
You want me to talk about black carding?
Yeah, black carding.
Okay, so as a player, this doesn't even necessarily have to do with bleed, but bleed can be involved too, right? If any scene that you are in, any scene that's being run, makes you uncomfortable. Let's say murder makes you incredibly uncomfortable. You're probably going to encounter it a lot. Right. But we don't want to exclude anyone that has that as an issue, right? So I'll just use murder as an example. You could go with the more darker stuff that I don't really want to talk about and then get flagged by YouTube for that people should really be running anyways. But if you run into a scene where you find yourself uncomfortable, you can do what's called black carding, meaning you, the player, can just leave the scene. Now, that does not mean your character leaves the scene or your character escapes all consequences. The storyteller can just take your character and go, no problem, you can leave, I'll run your stuff, not a big deal. So, like, I mean, another common one would be, like, sex, right? Like, there's sex in pretty much every genre. People do that. They enjoy their erotic roleplay. And there should be warnings of those sort of things before people just start doing it. Especially in, like, Discord. Ideally, you should probably put a disclaimer warning.
But we'll get to Discord and check-ins in a moment.
Yeah, but you can, like, black card out of that. That's not a problem. You do not have to, basically, you do not have to engage in any scene on an out-of-character level that you are not comfortable with. You can say my character was there.
If you were experiencing an unholy amount of bleed, like you are really getting into it and you're having a panic attack because of things happening to your character, black carding out is completely fine. That is not something you should feel ashamed of. Stepping away to cool off for a little bit is fine. I understand that LARP occasionally can feel like something you constantly have to keep up with, but if it is getting to a point where it's a detriment to your health, prioritize yourself over LARP. LARP will always be there when you come back. You may not be. Full stop.
Yeah.
But less on the black card and the tools that we have in our tool belt to help us, and more on ways that you as a person can mitigate a bleed. I have a few options here. These are actually things that I recommend to everyone if you're starting newer characters to avoid bleed. And I separate it to like minor and major. And minor stuff is the most simple one, right? Like, if you are playing a character, make them fundamentally different to you. And I don't mean just playing a different gender. I mean in the sense of like accents, outfits. Well, accents that aren't racist, outfits that aren't racist. Obvious caveats are obvious caveats. Accents, outfits, maybe a mindset change. Are you used to playing types of characters that are usually against the system? Play a character that is the system. Are you used to a certain typecast? Play out of your typecast. You are playing a character. Your goal is to distance your mind from your character and understand where you're at. Another good option is journaling. I know that sounds very simple, but having a character document where you write down how your character is feeling is very good at contextualizing what you've just been through and separating from yourself. If you are finished a roleplay and it's really intense and you're really in your feels, you have all of these emotions and you put it into paper, reading back that paper is a biblical experience. It's a very much a come to Jesus moment of like, ooh.
Yeah. That's why I deleted and you'll never find my live journal.
I have tried so many times to find good blackmail on Adam, and I have been foiled at many times. I've asked. I'll get there. But another, like, on the major side, the biggest one I recommend is having hobbies. Like, go play Warhammer. Go outside. Talk to your friends. Sorry.
I'm really into it at the moment.
Go outside. Go play Warhammer. Maybe work out. Maybe talk to your LARP friends, but, like, in a context that isn't LARP. All of those things allow you to not be immersed in the game 24/7, because when you're spending more time as your character than you are as the person, for pretty obvious reasons, that's pretty bad. And then lastly, which is an art that is sort of not functional on Discord, is afters. Adam, could you explain what afters is for our audience? For some people might not know. Some people Discord only players.
Yeah. So I'll start with the Discord part, right? Discord has an out-of-game check-in area for most of them. That's useful to check in on other players when you're having intense scenes. It's kind of the best option that they have available because they don't have an afters, which is completely right. Though theoretically, you could have an afters, right? Because you could have like a Discord voice hangout on an off-game night and like all watch a movie or something. I'm going to look into that. That's not necessarily a bad idea.
It's a very good idea.
So afters is started when I was playing in the 90s. We would all go to game on third Saturday. We'd hang out. There's like 100 players, and the game was just kind of an excuse to get together, hang out, play a little game, and then we all look forward to the afters, which is we went to one of our friends' house and we all partied. Like, granted, of course, there was a lot of like, drinking and partying stuff going on. This was teenage Adam, which is hilarious, so I loved it. But the important part about afters, and which nowadays is like go to the diner after game, but I think party is like a way better option because people kind of get more relaxed at a party than a diner. But diner is your go-to default.
The player base is like older now, so they can't really like club. But if all of the player base is 21, I would recommend we go to like a goth club because I think that'd be funny.
You know what we used to do after Coney when we played in New York City? After game, we all just went to the goth club in Manhattan. Like a like a 4-story like goth club. The drinks were super expensive, but you could like dance till 6 a.m. and just party and listen to great goth music, which is great, by the way, to go from a vampire game to immediately to a goth club. Yeah, those were my goth club days. I used to go to like I was going to the goth clubs like 4 times a week at one point.
I go to goth clubs.
Goth's dead. It's not what it was. Sorry.
Wow, Adam.
It's not.
Wow. Oh, Adam, that's so fucked up of you. Destroying an entire subculture.
I was part of that
Adam,
subculture. I get to say that.
Cancel Adam.
Also, I mean, like...
Post on my Twitter.
Also, I always get joke about the drama in One World, and I'm always like, that's nothing compared to goth drama. It is like 1,000 times worse.
I don't want to think about like LARP. Anyways, the actors fundamentally as it has both a social usage and it's just you fucking around with my friends. Because like let's be honest, at the end of the day, what LARP is kind of like gaming outside things. It will still be multiple different experiences that you all play by different people. But like in the end, it's you and a whole bunch of chuckle fucks pretending to be werewolves, vampires, mummies, etc. And afters allows you to get to know those people outside of their characters. Just like fundamentally, and that is a very good thing, especially when you're trying to fucking distance yourself, or when it comes to character death, which we'll get into in a little bit. When a character dies, or when you're getting into a skirmish, on floor, you don't have an out-of-character check-in. And I believe that check-ins mid-scene are breaking for the game. Like, they aren't good for immersion, they aren't good for roleplay. But you may differ on that subject. I think only intervention happen if things were getting absolutely intense. Like an extreme option is an extreme option, but like afters is a place that if you yell at someone for the entire night, you sit across and you're like, "Hey dog, how you doing?" Guy goes, "I'm doing," and then you fucking talk it out about what you're doing for LARP, what you're doing for life. And as Adam said, Discord doesn't really have that option. I mean, there is the voice channel, which is the closest you're gonna get to it.
You could do camera share. You could.
I don't want to feel like afters is a work from home meeting.
I'll throw you a pizza party. That's our afters.
Oh my god. If you do order pizza to my house, I would turn on my camera for that.
You heard it here. You want A to show up in your Discord video.
I'll kill you.
Get them a pizza.
I'll kill you. That's a promise.
So, A and I actually kind of disagree on this, right? So A goes, don't do those out-of-game check-ins in the middle of this scene. I see where A is coming from, and I fundamentally don't disagree, right? Like, yes, conceptually, that makes sense. We don't want to break immersion. We don't want to make it awkward for the other players and stuff like that. I will say in a practical sense, I believe that it is necessary sometimes because you don't know when the volcano's about to erupt. You can only just start to look at the signs. So by the time you've decided that the check-in has happened, the explosion and the eruption has already occurred. The goal should be to prevent that, right? So there are some tools that I've seen some LARPs do that instead of just immediately breaking out of game and going, "Hey, are you okay?" they use hand symbols, right? So like you can be in the middle of it, yeah. You can just, if you're not feeling it, you just go, and like you can keep, while the person's yelling at you, everything should stop. This means you're good to go. Keep going. I'm okay with this. I'm feeling all right. This is generally supposed to be treated as the same as this, right? Because this is like, I'm unsure how I feel right now about this scene. Which ultimately should be like, I need to tone it. At the very least, I need to tone it back. And like maybe an out-of-game check-in is necessary to be like, are you okay? Because, a lot of people that don't have a lot of self-confidence to be like Roman Emperor thumbs down, they're probably going to be like, I don't want to upset this other person. So they'll tend to do this, right? Because like, I don't want to risk angering this person. If I do this, it might anger them. So treat this like this. That's the best way to think of it.
So comically, this is actually based on location. I'm very excited about this. That is a very Boston thing. It is a very Boston game to do this, while Florida, where I'm based out of, usually does our check-ins after the scene. Like either at afters or after the scene or after everything is done. That is when you would talk and sit down and see where you can like contextualize what happened. I know certain other places have like different systems, I'd say, like interruptions beforehand or afterhand, or planning out the scene in advance. I can't list all of them off the top of my head, but if you were looking for a certain check-in system, it's recommended that you ask what the check-in system is. On Discord, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be out-of-character check-in. But live, some people might have different ways of doing it. And none of those things are worse or better. They're all just different ways of doing it.
I mean, for example, one that's just off the top of my head, and I don't even play it, I just heard about it, was the consent ribbon system for glitter and glue.
Yes! Yeah, the green, yellow, and red system. If red, you're uncomfortable being touched, like, at all. Yellow is like, ask first, and then green is like, go for it. And I think it's a very solid system, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I mean, if it works for them, that's great. My rules about my LARP, and that's just what works for me. So I'm not saying anything wrong with that system. That's a great system if that's something you want to explore and do and can do it in a controlled, secure environment. I'm very risk versus reward, so my LARPs don't touch other people is my rule. Like, there's no yellow, green, red, just don't do it. And that's just for me and years of like, that's in the core book of like, don't touch people, don't get drunk at game. Like, these are the basic rules of the game. And again, I'm not saying anybody else's system is different. If it works, more power to you. I just am not comfortable in a game where like there's people that have like open consent making out in the corner. I makes me uncomfortable. Like, it's simple, I'm glad you're having fun, but I don't want to be like, time to tell this vampire stuff. Okay, they're just like making out and okay.
Girl,
no.
this is a Wendy's.
Right. I'm here to tell a
Take your order,
vampire.
ma'am.
I'm here to tell a vampire story for adult dress up make believe. Why are you making out? Like, but
Yeah, and
that's me.
One of the beauties of the org is that you can really pick and choose, and the openness of Discord allows people to go from game to game. Like, there's also like player representatives. If you feel like bleed is preventing you from doing X, Y, and Z, or you want to check yourself for bleed, or if you think that you're really getting into it, if the game has a player rep, or if you trust your ST enough, either or is an option. We have measures in place to talk this out. Which brings us to another subject, and I'm just going to jump over for character death here, to trauma dumping and sort of like trauma etiquette, I suppose? That feels like a very terrible way of putting it. And to some extent, discussions about LARP and therapy.
I just watched you get like drained a little bit.
It's a hard subject because LARP is inherently escapism, right? It's inherently like you get away. But unfortunately, the escapism is into World of Darkness. Everything here is worse. The World of Darkness world sucks. But if you're a vampire. But like, because of that, treating LARP like your escape is going to usually end in mistake. It's usually going to end pretty badly. You are in a collective story with other people. and they're not going to follow your track. If you're really going through, don't yell it out to the world. Don't feel the need to push it through your character. Talk to someone you love, family member, friends, otherwise. Therapy is great, but I understand it's not an option for everyone. Don't put human connection behind a paywall. Reach out to the people you love. Reach out to the people you respect. This is a community. It's One World by Night. It's a game, but it's also a community. There are people who will be there to support you. But there are also some people who don't have the wherewithal, nor patience, nor the time. And throwing it out there will unfortunately lead to rough situations. This is why Discords usually have a vent channel, venting as in like venting your emotions, or private DMs for this conversation. I know Adam and I were talking about this, and I'm trying to be very delicate about the subject because the emotions you feel are, for lack of a better term, this term has been completely overused, valid. The way that you express it, if it's negative or hurting other people, is not. If you are feeling like shit, or if you are feeling angry, you have a right to feel both of those things. Not because it's an American right, but because you're alive. Because you're alive. But if you are hurting other people in response to that, it's not okay. I feel like a PSA.
Do you want me to take over?
Please.
Right.
Please.
Two things. LARP can be therapeutic. LARP is not therapy. This is not a controlled environment with trained individuals to help you with your mental health issues. It's not. This is adult makeup, dress up, make believe, happy, collaborative storytelling time with your friends. That's what this is. And that can be good for you, but so kind of the other point, right, is that a lot of times when people kind of freak out or have issues, if you dig a little deeper, you'll tend to find out it's because stuff in their life's not going great. And LARP becomes that avenue of a world you feel like you have no control in, the real world. And LARP is something I control. I can control my character. And when that feeling of control is questioned, you'll lash out because I have this and you're trying to take this from me now. So it's always difficult, but yeah, you should talk to your friends, reach out to the resource. There are resources out there for places to help you. Your friends genuinely care, but to the point of the trauma dumping, ask first. You know what I mean? Like, even if you're a friend, you're like, hey man, I really need someone to talk to you, is an okay thing and what you should ask first before just unloading with your issues, right? Because you don't know what they're going through and what they're experiencing at that time. Maybe they're just not in a place where they can handle that as well. So always check that first. I'll also say, agree, that you cannot control what you feel about something. You're gonna feel what you're gonna feel, but you can control what you do with those feelings. So, there's great tools for people in general that have, we'll say, emotional issues, right? Like they get angry easy, anger management, stuff like that. There's tools you can do of like forcing yourself to stop and go just take a walk for 5 minutes before going back to it. Another one that's like good for stopping panic attacks, for example, is the five things method, which is like you force yourself to say out loud 5 things you see, 5 things you can touch, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can smell. This tricks your brain. It's actually really fascinating scientifically to ground you back into the moment that you're in and that everything is kind of okay, that, this world is real. So I think it's a good tool for Bleed too as well, that if you're getting out there, just pause and do the 5 thing, right? Because it'll bring you back to the moment, to the world that you're in.
Or like take a walk. Like if you feel another option, and I really hate to say it, but it's true. If you feel so much in your feelings, either for X, Y, and Z or for things that are happening, maybe don't go to game. And I know that's hard to say, but if you're really going through a tie event to the point where you cannot separate from going through, maybe LARP isn't for you tonight. Maybe don't out and instead stay in and watch TV and take a break. Because LARP can get intense. As much as we have control over our characters, it's limited. There's STs and other people talking. If you want a power fantasy self-fulfillment story, play a video game. And I want to be clear, that's okay. Like, don't feel shame for that. It's just that in a LARP sphere, you're only going to end up hurting other people and yourself as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling anger, just go download a beat 'em up and go take the anger out there. Or like, go to the gym. Working out is a really good way to get your anger out. Like, go hit a punching bag. Go to town on it. If you're like me...
Go to a rage room.
Yeah, go to a rage room. If you're like me, for my stress in my life, I'll just go to the gun range because I enjoy the sport, right? Like, it's calming, it's relaxing. I'm in Connecticut, it's weird, right? But I'm a sports gun owner, right? Because, like, I was into archery as a kid. Yeah, this is really weird.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So I was the second best in my state for archery when I was a kid. And then I went... Yeah, I got medals. And then as I got older, I wanted to evolve from archery, and I got into firearms. So, like, I sports shoot. Like, that's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not like one of those second right, like, live or die. I'm just like, I like shooting guns for sport. Like, that's it.
You're a sportsman of gun. Want some good brevity until we have to get to our final and very
to keep it light.
Heavy fucking topic. Because this is a heavy fucking episode.
Is this character death?
Character death. It's character death. Yeah. I have some testimonies from some people here. Specifically Katie and Marcus. Shout out to both of them. Thank you so much for talking with me, talking about your experiences. So when I talked to Katie about her experiences with character death, she told me that, like, character loss is very important to the experience of game. It's allowing to give narrative stakes, right? Sometimes the story is that the PC dies, and that effects ripple in their wake, and that eventually people are going to move on, and their characters inherently are going to be different from this experience. But also, the loss of the character sort of severs bleed very easily. You are no longer tied to the character. You are doing the equivalent of cutting cord. And because of that, it gives you a wider understanding of what a character's story is. Like, she and I were talking about a healthy exploration. It's discovering yourself again as your dies. Do you want to continue the topics of that story that you explored? Do you want to... She also greatly recommended choosing your character death, in the sense that, because LARP is something inherently, as I said, that you can't control. If you have an option for your character to go out in a very interesting or epic, for lack of a better term, fascinating way, take it. Like, don't feel ashamed of taking that. A character's end of a story is not always bad. In fact, it could be start of a new one. When you talk to Marcus, Marcus is a player from out sort of the Milwaukee area, and the PC that died that we were talking about was Sigma, their gargoyle. Their gargoyle was a little gargoyle. It had a lot of different people who were invested into that character. Like, they were very much an emotional support character. And when I asked them how they got over that character death, because that character death wasn't planned. It was something that happened due to plot, just because plot happens. And they told me that what kept them back in the game was finding out the emotional wave of everyone. People were talking about how much they loved, much it affected them, how much their death would change their people. And it changed their mindset of how character death worked, about how positively they felt about how good a run the character had. And I think both of these examples are good ways of telling you that, hey, if your character dies, it's okay. Things keep going, and your character have an impact on people, but not. Do we want to talk about the most recent one as well?
I mean, did you want to toss it to me for, like, my opinions, or are you just gonna go?
I mean, I'm also going to talk to you about your opinions, but also about the most recent one.
Yeah, I was kind
of the Savant as well.
Yeah, I was kind of gonna get into that, actually. So my views on character death, right? One World by Night used to be a much more bloodier place where PvP happened all of the time. Turns out that's not great for player retention. We lost tons of players because, like, you stepped on my pumas, so I killed your character, right? So,
Not even Nike fucking Pumas.
well, conceptually, think about it this way, right? People invest hundreds of dollars in their costuming and their characters, endless amounts of hours playing these characters and being involved with them. Killing their character is taking their choice away. You have decided their story is done. And I don't think enough gravitas is really given to that consideration, right? So there's a really cool tabletop role-playing game. I forget the name of it, but it's got a very interesting system, which I really, really liked. So the system of the game is your character cannot die, okay? You can be defeated, you can be foiled, you can be incapacitated. However, on your character sheet, there's a box that you, the player, can check that says, I'm okay with my character dying in this scene. When you check that, you get a bunch of mechanical bonuses, but you have told the storyteller, you can kill my character in this scene. So that you can have like an epic moment. Because the control then goes back to the player. The player has decided, I'm okay with this, and I want this to happen. And I thought that was a really cool tabletop RPG mechanic, conceptually. That instead of just like, hey man, you went down an alley, rolled nothing but ones, and your character died. Nobody enjoys that story. That's not a good story. Like, character death should be epic and moving and should be the progression of story. I mean, sometimes, you get fucked up by the deer in the woods and you died is a thing. That's just the randomness of the world, but it shouldn't be common. I'll also say this. In tabletop role-playing games, almost all of them have a character resurrection mechanic for all of the reasons I've talked about, right? Like, D&D has resurrection, Pathfinder has resurrection, Cyberpunk has cloning. Like, there's resurrection mechanics. World of Darkness does not realistically have a resurrection mechanic. There's a couple, but it's really obscure stuff. It's not a...
You put the biggest asterisk next to it because we can't get into it here. This episode will be hour.
No, I mean, this is real quick. And the reason why, and they talk about it in the Storyteller book, is that, like, hey, man, unlike most tabletop role-playing games, character deaths should actually be rare. Vampires don't actually tend to risk their unlives fairly frequently. Character deaths should happen as part of the story, hence why we called this system the storytelling system, right? So character deaths should be given the gravitas and the weight and the out-of-game understanding that people are going to be upset when they lose their character, and I think they have a right to mourn the loss of those memories. But to your point, your friends are still going to be there. You can make a new character, you can make a new story, you can make a new memory. I'll say also this, to the point that you'd asked me earlier about in Sabbat. There was a pretty major character death recently. I think there are great tools to help players get closure, because closure is an important part. If you're mourning the character death, you need a means of closure. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I don't know where your head's at. I don't know how you feel about this, but I want to offer it to you anyways. Is that, if I win Sabbat Court, I should say. If not, I'll probably just do it through Coney. That I'll go out and promote with NPCs that we're going to do what's called a ghost dance. And in Sabbat, it's one of the rite that you perform when a Sabbat member has died. What this does is it assembles from the memories of those gathered an apparition of the person that you knew. The Sabbat in character believe that they've actually summoned the ghost of the person that's died. Out of game, they haven't. It's literally just their memories, and you're in a cult. Sorry. But that gives that player an opportunity to play that apparition, and you get to say goodbye to them. You get to talk about those memories. One of the best ones I ever saw was at Nonclave when Father Allen died. There was 40 players. There were players in tears going through this saying goodbye. I used to hate for years, and I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, and looking back on it, I don't know why, this is really stupid to me, but Camarilla used to has every once in a while, it's not as common, they would have funerals for characters that died, and I was like, that's lame, the most unvampire thing I've ever heard. But, like, looking back on it, you should have funerals. You should do stuff like that, and give the player, like, the chance for that closure and acknowledgement that their character mattered to them and mattered to the story and mattered to the world. Because the thing that, like, people are afraid of the most when you lose a character is that you didn't matter, no one cared, your death was utterly irrelevant, And so it's not a great feeling for anyone. No one wants to feel like, hey, all those hours you spent, nobody gave a shit. And those are opportunities and tools to show that, no, you actually gave a shit. And, you know, even if you didn't know the character, you didn't know them super well, go to those things and try to participate, because you're passing the ball, right? Like, the idea is that we have a ball, and that if I pass it to A will get to play with the ball for a little bit, and then ideally we'll pass it on to someone else, and eventually that'll come around back to me. So by helping others, you're actually helping yourself, because people will be interested in playing more with you and engaging with you. And, you know, when your character dies, just make a new character and get ties with your friends. Like, you can immediately have an in. It's about those out-of-game connections and relationships you've made, not your in-game one.
Now, in tandem to this, there's an even harder discussion that I don't know if we're ready to handle, which is about PvP death,
which is even harder of a conversation that, frankly, I'll be honest with you, that I haven't made up my mind on. Like, on your subject, there is the Ghost Dance is it's a bot way to tie up a story. The game will have a certain bloodline called the Ghost Singers that, like, can meld with the earth and see how you died and then tell your tale. It's a very good, like, bookend to Gangrel characters. I've seen Camarilla characters host funerals. Those are all fantastic ways to, like, mourn the loss of a character, even due to PvP. PvP death is a very much other story that I don't think we should actually get into here, because I think the topic of PvP could be an episode even on it.
I
about the
I have one quote, though. I have one quote before we
go on.
It's a great quote. It's from Queen of the Damned, and it kind of sums up my point of view. Marius is meeting with Lestat, and Lestat goes, "We're vampires. We don't settle grudges. We harbor them." Which, like, for me, encapsulates the mentality of a vampire. You're an immortal being that's gonna be bored. Why would you settle a score when you can just be petty and drag it out for centuries? But yes, that should be a topic for another video. I think that's a great idea with going into the depth of PvP. But yeah, character death through PvP is a whole other thing. It's always dramatastic. Always.
But essentially, that's sort of. Do you have any more final thoughts before we sort of wrap this up? Because that is sort of all the topics we're doing now. This episode is very heavy, just because a lot of these topics are very heavy.
I got 3 more gray bears. You can see them, like, right here.
Well.
Shut up, talking. No, I mean, the other point I would talk about is how wrestling is LARP, and we need to have an episode.
No, I can't fucking have this conversation again. I don't even to goat me to the fucking conversation to trick me into watching wrestling, and I just fucking refuse.
No.
Good for people who like wrestling. It's not my fucking thing.
Joan said the same thing. She's all in now. It's fine. All In is also the name of a pay-per-view for wrestling. See how I did that? Like, I just kind of weave it in. I've dropped so many wrestling references, you didn't even recognize them.
Yes, because I don't fucking watch wrestling.
I'm wearing a wrestling shirt right now.
Oh my god, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm not talking about wrestling here. I'm not talking about fucking wrestling.
There, I wanted to add some levity for this very heavy topic. I tried to insert as much as I could while being serious. There are serious things we need to discuss. Bleed is a real issue. And don't feel bad if you experience bleed. I think if you take anything away from this video,
yes,
everyone ever has experienced bleed. I've experienced bleed. I am sure A has experienced bleed.
It comes free with making your character dead ass. Like, it happens. It means you're invested.
Yeah. Yes. Don't freak about it when it happens, and trust and listen to your friends and the people you trust. They're there to help you. A good friend will always listen. If they're not willing to listen, they're probably not a good friend, unless, like, they're going through some shit. But I mean, like, a general sense. Like, you bug me right after work, I'm gonna be like, don't talk to me. Like,
communication is great. Boundaries are great.
Utilize the resources that you have. I know it's hard to, especially to reach out to people when you're already going through something, but it's going to feel the world a lot better because it does get better. It's a community. We're not just World by Night. We're a community. Trademark.
Yeah, I mean, take it a little this way. I'm married to my wife because of One World, right? My best friends in life are all people I met through One World by Night. People that don't even play anymore. They're still my best friends. in the whole world. So you develop some great relationships through One World by Night. I think that's the perk, right? Like that's the best thing about One World by Night is that it's a huge community of people that you can meet and you can relate with and find the people that you jive with and you make friends for life. And maybe you may even find true love. What? Too cheesy? Wow. A is not a fan of true love.
I want to beat you to death with a rock. Call that Canism.
How did this get reversed, right? Because you're in the light and I'm in the darkness, and I give the heart and you give the finger. Perfect. That puts a button on the end of this episode.
Thank you so much for watching. Do you want to fucking clear it out? Do you want me to?
I got it. Unless you want to do Mike the shtick, it'd be pretty funny for once.
No, I don't. Do it. I don't.
Okay.
Good.
As always, there will be other episodes of After Dark, so stay tuned. Like, subscribe, put your comments, hit that bell icon for notifications so that we can get sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I'm making this happen. One of my friends.
hate it every time.
One of my friends was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. It's gonna happen. Yes. That's how you know we made it. Now we can quit our jobs at that point. We'll be sponsored. We can just do this. Okay. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you next time.